areas, and it's probably not used enough. There's various, and I will go off on a slight tangent, because to BS6266, straight away you might ask me, well, what is an electronic area? I'm sitting here, probably the same as you guys, with a laptop in front of me. Does that mean I've got an electrical area? Well, yes and no. What it'll do in BS6266, and I won't go too much about the standard, but it actually gives you risk categories from low through to critical. So, for instance, a low risk area may well be your home office or even the work office. A medium area, for instance, that may be something like your office server room. Then you're getting into high, which might be something like a telecoms facility, or even critical, which might be some kind of financial business, air traffic control, or even, believe it or not, social media, just because the cost of the downtime could go into millions within seconds. Okay, and to give you an idea, if it was a low risk area, such as your office, the standard would identify that and say, don't worry about BS6266. Go back to 5839, that's perfectly acceptable. Within medium, it would say to you to use a high sensitivity or Class A system, and we'll get onto what these classes are in a little while. It'll say to use a Class A system in that space on the ceiling. Once you get to high or critical, it will say to you to use a high sensitivity stroke Class A system on the ceiling and on the primary detection. So it does give you a guide of what you're supposed to do depending on the risk. And obviously you can help your customer or client discuss what risk category they fall into. If we've decided they are under BS6266 and we need to do coverage on the ceiling, then generally what we'd need to do is a detection point every 25 square meters. So forget if you're used to your 7.5 meter radius, go back to your 25 square meters per detection point. And basically what that means is 4 times as much detection. So if, for instance, you decided to use standard point detection to use in a BS6266 area, you would still need to use this level of density of coverage. So you'd still need 4 times as many smoke detectors. If you used a Vesda, I'll go on to my next slide, then you would just divide the room up, and wherever you would typically have this 25 square meter or 5 by 5 ideally grid, you'd have a hole in the pipework. If this particular room was deemed a high or critical risk, we'd also want to cover the air handling system. So we get the earliest possible warning, giving us a chance to intervene and stop that business or that particular area having any downtime. There's a lot more to BS6266, and we, by all means, as I say, contact your business managers who put you in contact with me if you are doing such areas. And there's also part of a plan to do a separate webinar specifically on this subject. Okay, so that's BS6266 in a nutshell, but as I say, do ask me questions later on. If we're covering the air handling unit, what we tend to like to do is use a separate pipe per air handling system. This is to prevent dilution. So you can imagine if you've got this little tiny wisp of smoke, again electrical type areas, going into a big air handling system which has forced air going through it, that little smoke sample gets really, really diluted. And if we've got 4 of these air handling systems all blowing air into that tube, that even adds even more dilution. So we try to keep the pipe separate to reduce dilution. That's not to say it won't work by covering more than one air handling system, but we err on the side of caution. So we tend to recommend 1 pipe per air handling unit. And again, there's specific regs to how you cover those. For instance, a hole across an air return grill should be a hole every 0.4 square meters. We could go on, but again, as I say, it's quite a big subject. Ask me questions on that or get my details, and I'll be more than happy to guide you. So hopefully something you will...
You can apply to make these changes at any time.
Thank you. So just jumping onto something I hope you're a little bit more familiar with, which is your BS5839. You'll go, oh yes, this all makes sense now. So again, exactly the same as your point detection in an office building or a warehouse. A point covers a 7.5 meter radius. Okay, we're not allowed to cover more than 2,000 square